I pay for my car for $100 month, then I have additional.
Hi, everybody. All of you online, thanks for joining. We've got 23 people online. That's great attendance so far. We're going to get started in just 1 minute here. There's some sample scripts to how to introduce a buyer representation or a buyer consultation. If you would like a copy of this, I'm going to put it on the screen and make sure it also gets emailed out to everybody on the team. Pass out anything might need it. As we're getting started, I want to open with a question. How many of you are conducting a buyer consultation with leads before you start showing them properties? 50-50? Okay. Half the time. Decent amount of experience here. If you're online, you're welcome to put that in the chat as well. And how many of you are... Okay. We got coffee brewing in the background. It's all good. It's okay. And if you are not conducting a buyer consultation before you are doing showings, at what point are you doing that consultation once you have started developing a relationship with the lead? First showing at the house? Okay. Anyone else kind of using that opportunity? Okay. So we're going over this today because obviously with NAR's changed rules, we have to have a consultation completed before we can show someone a property. That kind of changes things a little bit, right? If we're working on yes, Steve? It's a signed rep agreement, but the state of Minnesota requires that you present that disclosure and explain to any potential client what paperwork it is that they are signing. Can you do that without a consultation? No. So the best habit to get into is to schedule a sit-down meeting with the person you're looking to develop a work relationship with and inform them of the process. The script that I passed out today, this is all just based on introduction. They're going to get refined. I'm certainly open to feedback. If some of you who have been doing buyer consultations have a certain type of language that you like to use or how you introduce that topic to leads that you're talking to, we can take all of that into consideration. I tried to do something a little different with this, and I matched it up with the DISC profile. So based on that initial conversation you're having with the lead you talk to, if it's a team lead that comes through and they just want to schedule a showing, you know, you're going to be able to get a feel for their personality type, maybe on that first phone call. Are they super friendly? Are they just wanting some answers to their questions? Do they need all the data? Are they very direct with you? I just want to see the property. All of those things can be applied to DISC profile personalities. So when you see this at the bottom, it's just giving you an idea of what personality type this sort of script might work best with. It will continue to evolve where we are including some different objections maybe that people with this personality type or just people in general might have and ways to work through those objections. I also have a couple tips that I asked be shared by a few of our agents who do lots of buyer consultations every single time. Those two agents were actually Buford and Sarah Church. Both cannot be here. One is on an airplane. The other is, I believe, at a closing or something at this moment. But I'll give you some of the couple tips that they gave, which I really liked as well. I've never had this pop up before. Confirm my speaking language. Do I sound like I'm speaking Arabic? That's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. First, I'm going to check comments real quick here. Nope, nothing related to the training. This is an outline that some of you might have already seen already. I've been teaching this to new agents since September. So if you've been with the team since September, chances are that we've gone through this during trainings, or Andy, if he's done the trainings, he's gone through this with you as well. I did ask the sales coordinators to kind of give some of their perspective today too. So there's a couple points where if they have tips or suggestions on what they're doing, they're welcome to interject that as well. Now, how this is written is obviously scheduling or setting up that consultation is going to be a little bit different depending on how the lead is introduced to you. If it's a personal lead referral, absolutely from the first contact, you are able to set the tone for a consultation. First step we want to take is to sit down with each other. I'm going to guide you through the process. I'll make sure that I answer any questions that you have. You understand the role of a realtor and what it is service-wise I'll be providing for you, and then also discuss how it is that I'm compensated. This is something that the state of Minnesota requires, and we'll just set the tone from that point forward. So if you make that your conversation from the beginning, you're setting proper expectation with the person you're working with. Now, obviously, it works a little bit different when we're going through the process of having someone come through Zillow, right? So their goal is they just want to get into the property. A consumer just wants to see the product that they are most interested in. We are not asking at this time that you change anything about how you are going through that conversation process. If it's an ALM lead, the live phone call transfer, we're still following that. If it's a real-time tour, it's the same process for us accepting the showing, scheduling it, and then doing the follow-up text message or the golden text. Really, it's at the point that you're going to be connecting with the consumer on either that second phone call or the follow-up confirmation that you're going to introduce the topic of buyer consultation. Now, there's going to be some changes that might come with this in terms of one-time showing agreement options. As far as Minnesota goes, we only have one available that's really geared more towards a seller. It's not geared towards a buyer. So I'm staying in touch with one of my contacts on the forms committee to see if we have something that will be updated. I know that EXP is working on a form that will be available to us. Liz, I don't know if you know anything further about that, but at this time, I don't believe they've released it yet. That is something that they did promise to us, though, so I would expect at the very least EXP will have a form for us to use as a one-time showing agreement going forward. The most important thing when you are scheduling a consultation, my recommendation is you always do it in person, but technically it can take place over the phone. If you've been doing real estate through COVID, you know, we did a lot of consultations and things on Zoom, correct? So you can still make use of that as well. The important thing is that in any consultation, you have to be able to explain what it is that you are asking the person on the other end to sign, right? Like that's why the agency relationship disclosure is so important. A consumer has to be informed of those relationships in real estate, what their right is, and then the ability to decide from that point forward what kind of representation they're seeking. So whether that's occurring in person, which I highly recommend now that COVID restrictions are not in effect, then I would definitely say do it over Zoom. But I don't recommend doing it over the phone. And the reason for that is it is so easy to reject somebody over the phone, right? So you always want to be, it's much harder to do that if you're in person with someone and they're right in front of you asking you for your business and you have to tell them to their face that you don't want to work with them. So whenever possible, try and set up the consultation in person. I have a sample script in here and I'll make sure this outline goes out to everybody as well. Have you had the home buying process explained to you yet? Buying a house is a big deal, whether it's your first time or you've done it before. It's important to make sure that it's a good experience for you and everything goes as smoothly as possible. I'm sure that's what you want for yourself too, right? So now you're starting to involve their emotions a little bit in the response. At this point, I would say you could use an approach like this with maybe a lead that you've already talked to, or excuse me, not necessarily like a team lead, but more of a personal lead. The lead script that I put in here, the introduction on there is first confirming the appointment, right? You're excited about helping them on their homeownership journey. You look forward to meeting them. The first step in this is that follow-up call where you are explaining, hey, I've got our showings already set up, or if the home that they wanted to see was not available and you decided to set up maybe found additional properties that would work for them, set those showings up, and then you're still confirming that appointment because the goal is you're committing you are in a relationship at this point, right? Like that's what you're seeking, a partnership with that person. So you want to make sure that you're delivering on what they asked for first. And then we're introducing the buyer consultation as a requirement to the state of Minnesota, but why it's beneficial to the consumer. And each of these scripts kind of goes through that process a little bit. I'm going to do the first, I'm just going to review this first script. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I would like you to look these over and just kind of see yourself in a little bit and know that this is a script. It does not mean it's not a manuscript. There is no requirement that you read this word for word. Anytime I get a script or there's, you know, something like this that I would see in writing that I like, I try to tweak it to the language that I'm going to use, and it has to match my personality as well. So keep that in mind when you're going through these. If there's a certain line that works better for you, absolutely feel free to use that. If you want to merge kind of one script with the other a little bit and that works better for you, figure out a way that you can introduce the conversation on buyer consultation in a natural way for you that disarms the person you're talking to on the other side. This first one here, I just have, you know, buyer's name. I'm thrilled you're considering taking these exciting steps towards homeownership. In my experience, a brief informative consultation before we dive into showings will make all the difference in your home buying experience. It's a chance for us to outline your priorities, understand the market, and then tailor the search to help you find your perfect home. The state of Minnesota actually requires that this consultation be done first to ensure you fully understand your options in real estate, how I would work on your behalf, and how I'm compensated. So let's meet 30 minutes before our first showing at the coffee shop right down the road on Main Street. Coffee's on me, and I can review some of the required information from you so that you can make an informed decision when we find that right house. So there's a script there, but however you want to tweak the wording of it, you can do in a way that works best for you. Any questions about kind of the process of introducing consultation into the conversation? Sure.
Will you have updated verbiage to help us with our Zillow questions as well?
When the time comes. You mean if there are any changes that Zillow requires with how we do our initial scripting? Absolutely. My understanding is that they at some point will be introducing a one-time showing agreement into the process. I think the long-term goal is that any lead that comes into us will have already had some disclosure presented to them that they're required to sign to move forward with the showing. So who knows, right? It might completely change the whole process that we're doing. We just don't have any information on that yet. Thanks for asking though. Anyone else? It's not complicated. Standing up here and talking about it is very different than having a face-to-face conversation with someone, right? I would tell you that whenever possible, my goal is to sit down with them beforehand. On the other scripts in here, towards the end, I always say, what time works best for you? You know, let's meet, we can meet at 11 o'clock tomorrow at my office. Or if you prefer, we can meet at 1 o'clock at the coffee shop down the street, closer to the house we're going to be touring. So now you're giving them an option, but you're not making it an option, right? So pick which one works best for you, but we're still having the consultation one way or another, and assuming that that is an important part of the process. The goal is to get them into the house that they want to see, but we have to fulfill our obligation to the state. And in truth, Minnesota already has these rules in place. You are not allowed to give any recommendations or advice to any consumer about moving forward with the property until you've had a buyer representation agreement in place. So in essence, we've been doing that for the last 10 plus years here in Minnesota. We're just now with this NAR settlement saying probably there's going to be closer eyes on it. But if you know that you can't turn in a purchase agreement without a signed buyer rep, right? It's going to get kicked out by broker compliance. There's a reason for that. So just start getting into a good habit of doing what's already required of us here. And then all that we're doing along the way is kind of tweaking the script or the process depending on the source of the lead. But you're still doing what you're supposed to do in terms of educating the consumer. Yes, Liz.
Can I address some maybe like text?
templates to help with the people that like facilities that absolutely want to answer your call but will reply to text and maybe just give a little guidance on engaging without spoofing them. Does that make sense? Because
Sure.
I just feel that if they feel like they're being pushed into something, are gonna just totally ghost us or fuck us or
Mhm.
I mean, just maybe.
Sure. So I would never recommend having that conversation in a text message, right? I would text, I need to have just a quick 2-minute conversation with you to explain what the state of Minnesota requires. Now you're taking it off of you. It's not that I want to do this. You can even be empathetic. I understand that this probably isn't something you're comfortable doing, but it is what the state is required. And I want to make sure that if I'm helping you find a home, I'm doing things the right way. I'm sure it's important to you to select a professional that would be doing things, that the law requires, or however you want to word that.
That's kind of the template.
Okay.
Something that would help us.
So you want scripts that maybe work more through. Sure.
Several Zillow that will not answer calls, but they will reply. And then you actually don't talk to them until you're at the first showing.
Okay.
Well,
correct.
Okay, but I'm just saying that, going forward, normally I'm like, all right, well, they're engaging.
Yeah.
Sure. I think we should let's definitely have more conversation about that. I understand what you're saying. To Sam's point, we have to be the person who's in control of the appointment, right? We're the ones who are delivering to the consumer what it is they want, but there are some conditions that apply. And one of those is we have to be able to chat with you on the phone. The other is we have to present the required information from the state of Minnesota to you and make sure that if you really do want to see this house, you understand what's involved in the process. Okay. So I want to move on to sitting down with clients. Here are some suggestions for that. So you want to be confident and friendly. You want an approachable tone from the start. Remember that the people that you're helping are going to respond to your energy and they're going to pick up on whether or not you're nervous. Get in the habit of practicing what it's like to sit down in front of someone. You are not just people who open doors. You are real estate experts, and that's what the consumer needs to feel when they're meeting with you. Otherwise, they could just call someone else or go to an open house if they just want the door open. Start the conversation by learning about the client. This is a great opportunity to really make it all about them. You want to tell them a little bit about yourself so maybe they can get a better idea of who you are and what's important to you. Or you can ask them that question. Ask open-ended questions. Stay away from yes or no questions. And the reason for that is it gives you an opportunity to draw out what is really most important to the consumer. And when you're doing that, believe it or not, the longer you're in front of someone, the more likely it is that they're going to work with you. So I don't like 15-minute buyer consultations. I know some people have that goal. Our end goal is to get them into a house, but I want clients who are going to give me referrals. I want people who have built a relationship with me, who know that they can trust me to service their needs in real estate and are confident in referring me to their friends and family. I don't think that can happen if you just rush them through the process. So the buyer consultation is really an opportunity to, help me help you. It's a line from Jerry Maguire. Dating myself a little bit. Help me help you, right? So make it all about the person that it is that you're meeting with, what their needs are. And the best way to do that is to be a great listener, right? That's one of the most important factors in any form of communication is listening. You want to give them your full attention, encourage them to share their goals and needs, preferences, and the reason why. And eventually, we're going to have a little cheat sheet that helps with that. So this is not ready to go yet. There's going to be some refinement in place. But we have a dream home wish list kind of questionnaire that people would be able to use. And it's going to give the person you're meeting with an opportunity to list all of those things that are most important to them. When that's ready to go, we will introduce that to the team as well, but that is something that we're working on. Ask them when they want to be closed and move into their new home, and then you can work backwards from there to help establish a timeline. I guarantee you, if you do it that way, you can cut any timeline in half. As soon as you know what the objection is or the reason that they have a timeline in place, you're able to get to the heart of the why and figure out a solution on why moving forward with real estate sooner is actually in their best interest. Express empathy, enthusiasm, and understanding about the significance of their home buying journey, and adjust your response to really fit kind of what is their personality type and their emotion. That's one of the reasons I put the DISC information I did on here on these scripts, so that you get an idea of who it is that you're talking to. How many people have you met or helped in real estate where it was just a complete mismatch of a client and you, right? Like Nicole's hands up in the background. I've had them. I'm a super detailed person. I do not work well with high C's. For whatever reason, it's like a clash of the titans in a real estate relationship. And I have learned that the hard way. So I know now that I probably don't want that business, to be honest with you. I might refer them to someone else. So when you make it all about them, you're really getting a feel for their personality type, their communication type, and what it is that they're going to need to build trust with you, and if that's a good match. It's like a quick date, a real estate date. Are they excited? Be excited with them. Nervous? You know, reassure them that you're going to take excellent care of them and that they're great hands working with you. You can share your credentials and experience after you've given them an opportunity to tell you what it is that they're looking for, what it is that they need. And at that point, I think it's a great way to reinforce confidence in the lead or the customer, that nobody's going to take better care of them than you. If you think about buying major purchases, any kind of major purchase, do you just kind of go in there and wing it? Or do you want to work with someone who can answer your questions, who instills confidence in what it is that you're purchasing, who can explain in detail if there's a warranty involved in it? Doesn't matter what it is, right? Well, this is like the largest purchase for most people, right? The biggest asset that most people will ever own is their home. So it's a very serious purchase. And they need to make sure that they can be confident in you're taking care of their needs. Educate and inform them. So you want to be able to explain your role as a realtor. I hate it when people say it that way. I can't believe I just did that. Sorry. We're not realtors. And how you're going to be able to assist them through the process. You can give the clients a buyer packet. I'm a big fan of coming with a Pemberton Homes folder. I'm going to have some information in there. One of them is going to be a bio that talks a little bit about me. I tend to bury that in the back. I'd like to have a physical copy of the agency relationship disclosure so that they can see it, and I highlight on it where it says it's state required. They know it's not on me trying to force them into paperwork. I'm just doing my job, right? I also will put maybe some information in there on what home warranties are so that they can be a little bit more educated on that process up front. And it's not something we randomly ask a question about when it comes time for them to write a purchase agreement. What's a home warranty? You never explained this before. So I'm really setting the tone on educating the consumer up front and helping them make an informed decision. When you do that, when you make it all about helping them make an informed decision, they are not going to feel pressured. You're telling them that they have time to make this decision. You want to make sure that they're confident in whatever direction they go moving forward, and that you're there to look out for their best interest and to support them. So with that, I'm going to briefly show you kind of the updated or revised version of our home buyer's guide, which I'm very excited about. Hannah's been working really hard on this. Okay. So if you have seen the home buyer's guide already, which I'm sure most of you have, I always include this in all of my buyer packets as well. This is a great handy tool to have on hand. If you follow the guide page by page, you have conducted the perfect buyer consultation. Now, there's a little tweaking in here, but it means that you've hit on every point that the lead or the customer needs to know about. What is the process in real estate? What is the timeline? Why is there a benefit to working with a professional? What is the process for pre-approval? Information they might need on loans. What to expect from our partnerships in return. Our title company and our insurance company giving them 5-star service. And then how do we take care of our clients for life? All of that is laid out here in the agreement. This first page discusses who we are as a team and what we have to offer. Leverage the power of the team. I tell people you're not just getting one agent, you're getting 90 agents for the cost of one. I have an entire team standing behind me, buyers ready, sellers ready to go. Leverage the power of the team. This page here is all on working with a realtor. Said it right this time. Thank you. And some of the things that a realtor will do on the behalf of a client, there is a buyer advantage page that we're going to get to as well. This timeline here establishes for you from step 1 all the way through step 8, closing day, what the expectation is for anybody when it comes to purchasing a house, right? And then you can use this and introduce it with the buyer representation paperwork at the same time. I have a step-by-step outline that I can send out to everyone as well that tells you exactly what you need to put in your buyer representation agreement and where. Your job as agents is to be familiar with the paperwork we're required to use so that you can be an expert at it. Would you feel confident if you went on a buyer consultation and someone's just, I think this next line maybe says, oh yeah, it says this, right? Like that's probably not going to convey confidence that you actually know what you're doing and what you're asking somebody to sign. So be reading the buyer representation agreement so you know exactly what's written into it. Remember, it's not just a protection for the consumer, it's a protection for you as the agent as well. So knowing what it is that you're signing, and they're legally binding contracts. Knowing what it is that you're signing is step 1 in making sure you're educating the consumer correctly and letting them know what they are signing and agreeing to. Interested in new construction. This is a new page that is being added into our buyer guide, which means they're going to get a little bit bigger. This whole page is dedicated to why it's beneficial to work with an agent through new construction. We haven't had anything like this before. It'll be interesting to see where commissions go with on the buy side in new construction. My husband reps new construction, and I know that that particular builder wants agents to bring them business. So they are gladly offering buyer compensation. I would expect to see some companies double down on not, or how can they make it as difficult as possible? For instance, Lennar. If your client goes to a Lennar home and they don't register you on the first visit, which goes into their database and now covers all neighborhoods, they will do anything they can to not pay out a commission to you, right? So having the consultation up front before they've really started the deep dive into new construction as an option, and explaining to them what the benefits are and what the process is, makes you look like the hero, right? Like you've set the tone for this and why they need to protect themselves if they do decide to go in into our new construction. No offense, Jared. I know that's how you get buyers. Reps a builder. But again, protection for the consumer and a protection for you as the agent. Knowing your numbers, if you've seen this page before, it stays the same. It connects them with our partners at Flex Mortgage. But in addition to that, now we're doing a breakdown on the pre-approval process, simplifying that, right? Being able to explain to the consumer, here are the steps that go into it, why it's not that big of a deal, why it's an advantage for you to be doing that up front. I don't want you to get your heart set on a house you can't afford. Or the flip side of that is maybe you think you need to keep your budget at $250,000, but when my lending partner takes a look at everything, you can actually afford $400,000 quite easily. Or we can structure an offer in a way that makes you get the home, a nicer home than you thought you could afford. We don't know any of that until we know what numbers we're working with. Having visual aids like this can be incredibly helpful for consumers, especially first-time home buyers. Understanding loan options. This is a nice little cheat sheet built in, not just for the client, but also for you, explaining what rate buy downs are, what adjustable rate mortgages are, the different types of loans. And I think fair to say we'll have maybe some tweaking that's still going to happen to this guide. It's not 100% ready. There was some feedback from our sales coordinators and myself today on what maybe we would like to see in this. I think it would be helpful to have concessions added in here, since that's kind of the new term that's going to describe listing fees, or concessions can be advertised, but compensation to a buyer's agent cannot. So understanding what the max amount of concessions for each of these loan types is important. If you have a copy of The purchase agreement line by line. If you don't have that outline, I'm happy to send it to you again, let me know, but I created an outline that goes through the PA line by line, and it does include all of that information in it already. I just want to maybe transpose it over onto this so it's a little bit easier to access. But you can look there in the meantime if you need to know what those maximum concession payouts are for each loan type. Our home search page has been updated as well. Really like this feature, all of the things that a Pemberton Homes agent is going to do in the home buying process for a buyer versus what other agents are doing. Don't be the person who just says, let me throw you on an MLS search, and then you let me know when you're ready to go see properties. They're going out and they're finding themselves a different agent. What are you doing to provide value? How you conduct a buyer consultation up front really sets the tone for that. What can the consumer expect from you as their agent if they choose to partner with you? You have to ask yourself that question. Zenlist is one that we talked about, I think, 2 weeks ago now. We're going to be investing more into this. This is a great way to get our exclusive listings in one spot. It will be better than Raven for any of those who have been using Raven. And it's connected on a national level as well. So if you've got buyers coming from a different state, if potentially you have a listing on there and there's buyers coming from another state, they might be able to see it, and vice versa. If you have a client you're working with that you're trying to help and need to refer out to another location, they could see listings wherever they're moving to that are off market. Great way to provide a different level of service. And then right down here at the bottom, we talked a little bit about this today, this weekly buyer meetings. Something I do is every Tuesday in the afternoon, I have a calendar reminder programmed in my phone. I reach out to any active buyers that I'm working with and anybody that I have under contract, regardless of the stage. If it's not closed yet, that's my day to connect with my sellers, connect with my buyers, and to provide some kind of value, right? Is there a coming soon listing that I think would be worth them seeing, and I text it out? Are we setting a plan for what our showings are going to look like through the weekend? There's plenty of different things we could do. We could, review some of our off-market inventory. We could talk a little bit about redefining their goals if they haven't been finding what it is they need in a home. Make sure that you have some kind of reminder set for yourself or time block connecting with all the people that you've already met in person. Because if you don't, it's just a waste of time, right? How many times have you gone out on showings with someone and then they just end up working with someone else, but you haven't really done the work of staying invested in their home buying process? Doing a consultation the right way up front, really cementing that relationship and saying, here's what I'm going to do for you. We're going to have a weekly meeting where we chat on the phone, review your goals. I'll show, any new properties that I think you might be interested in. We'll set our plan for any showings we're going to do for that week. I mean, now they're like, wow, white glove service. This person knows exactly what they're doing in real estate, and I can count on them to help me get into a new house. So if you're not doing this already, highly recommend it. Before I move on, I just want to ask my sales coordinators real quick. Nicole, I know you're in the room. Angie's here. I thought Andy is here. Do any of you have a tip or kind of a process that you do for this, for setting the tone with clients? Whether it's weekly, multiple times a week, anything like that.
If I have buyers that I'm actively working with, I just want to want buyers. This is like either like
you just communicated. So for those online, Nicole was saying that she had a buyer who was out last week on vacation. She's now reestablished contact this week to kind of get her head back focused on real estate again and maybe set an appointment up for this week. So you're setting the tone now. You're keeping them engaged in the process. You didn't just forget about them because they went on vacation. You're not just sitting around waiting for them to send you a house to look at. How about you, Angie?
I do something very similar. So like I'm usually running with like 2 or 3 sets of buyers, it seems, at a time. So I'll reach out to all of them beginning of the week at the same time. So we meet together. I want to make sure I make time for you guys. Day of the week and what time we want to look at homes this week. And then for my listings, I usually reach out on Tuesdays as well, just as like this is the over the weekend, that's the feedback that you saw, and then if we're still on the market, and you spread it into that like forward, I put those in place on Tuesday.
Okay, those were fantastic suggestions. So online, if you couldn't hear what Angie was saying, she does a two-part with both buyer and seller. Hopefully I recapped this well. For buyers, she reaches out and approaches it like, hey, I'm trying to set my schedule for the week. I want to give you the advantage of flexibility. What is it that you have? When can we meet? Is that how you, how's it? What days and times work best for them to maybe meet with her or go out and look at homes? And then for sellers, she's always just explaining, she does Tuesday as well, explains kind of what the activity was over the weekend or just gives an update on where things are in the sale process. That's excellent communication, guys. You're not, I mean, that's not asking for the world on a silver platter from a consumer, is it? That you touch base once a week at least? No, but putting it in writing and saying, I'm making this commitment to you as your agent. This is how I'm different, because I know lots of agents are just going to put you on the MLS and wait for you to get a hold of them. I'm not like that. I'm proactive in my approach of helping you reach your real estate goals. You want to be in a home, you've established a timeline. This is exactly how we're going to get it done. Andy, did you want to add anything?
I'm gonna say for people that are, trying to move through Mac college and are technically that search every day, or I don't worry about much. People that are just pretty excited, I'm just trying to feel out. I'll try to find one or two that really stand out based on what they're looking for, and just proactively text them and just say, hey, this one's set up with you guys live in Jersey.
Okay, I love that. I do the same thing with the text message.
Based on my response, I help change how what's this there.
Yeah. So Andy was saying one of the things he does is, you know, if there's someone who's very engaged in the process, maybe they don't require that systematic reaching out, right, once a week, because they're already communicating with you on a regular basis, especially if they're pre-approved and you're actively looking at homes. But for maybe leads in kind of that initial stage, trying to keep them engaged in the process, feeling them out a little bit. He's proactively looking for houses that are a good match, sending them over in a text message, and then proposing a showing, basically, right? Yep, to see if they want to get out and look at something in person. That's a great way of saying that you are continuing to go to work for someone. And I think it all starts with setting the tone and the expectation up front in this buyer consultation. Thank you for the contributions, guys. I appreciate it. I don't see Ian in here. Is he in here? I didn't want to make sure I didn't skip over him if he was here. Okay. Buyer's Advantage Program. This is another new page that's gone in here. This is still in refinement a little bit, but talking about providing excellent service to our clients by educating them and empowering them at every step of the way. And then this is a promise that we're making to the consumer, 6 different things that we as agents are doing on their behalf. These are all things you're already doing, right? But putting it on paper and presenting in a consultation is very different. You're making a verbal commitment to them. This love it or list it guarantee and the cancellation guarantee, they're going to go through a little bit of refinement. We'll see what that looks like. I wouldn't touch too much on this at this time. And again, you know, we'll have some edits coming out, but this is just a way of saying, hey, we want to make sure you love your purchase. We're doing our job to educate you as a consumer and helping you find the right home. If for some reason in 12 months you hated it, we will list that at no agent commission. Again, I don't want to dive deep into this. We're going to see what it looks like. Doesn't mean you would be not investing any marketing costs.
I don't know about that.
Without consent. I think right now, again, this is going through some refinement. If it were something like that, there's always a condition that applies, right? The condition might be that in this case, for sure, they have to work with you to buy the new house. Maybe they're covering all the marketing costs, etc. I'm hearing this and I want to hear this. Okay. We're going to move on. Okay. Just know that this is being adjusted. We're open to feedback. Okay. Okay. We're going to have that off record, not off record, off site, out of this room, behind closed doors, something like that. The cost of buying stays the same. This explains all kind of the upfront costs that go into it. Agent commission has been added down here at the bottom now as well, right? So we are fulfilling all of our disclosure obligations with this, which is great. It also opens the door for talking points. If they are really hung up on this, you're going to be able to, you know, dive deeper into that part of the conversation. But if it's not something that the consumer is really concerned about, they fully understand how compensation works, great. It's just there to, as a disclosure and to inform the consumer. Who you work with matters. This page is, I think it's just gone through kind of like a visual change, but it's basically the same on who our partnerships are. And then the rest is the same as far as perks that we have for our clients, the moving truck, and then this glossary of terms that's here as both a guide for you if you need it, but as for the consumer as well. So from start to finish, this guide is a buyer consultation, right? You don't have to do much else with it if you just follow the guide. And then you introduce the buyer representation paperwork. Okay, how am I doing on time? I got 15 minutes. Let's see here. Okay, so once you do that, I'm gonna circle back here to the outline about providing a clear overview of the home buying process in Minnesota. This is when you're introducing agency relationship disclosure, buyer representation agreement, and our affiliated business disclosures. The buyer rep agreement, or excuse me, the agency relationship disclosure should always be signed. Now that these provisions, guidelines are in place from NAR, requirements, whatever we want to call them at this point, the state does do audits on this. And I don't know to what extent you're aware of that, but if a client refuses or a customer refuses to sign it, it's just a disclosure, right? But if they refuse to sign it, I want you to sign it. Sign it and date it and note on there that they declined to sign. And you keep that for your records as a just in case. If someone ever comes back and tries to say they never gave me the disclosure, it was never really explained to me, you have a little note saying when it was that they refused to sign in the event that an audit was ever done. And the Department of Commerce determined that you did not introduce that disclosure at the right time, or secret shoppers, right? Like, we've seen some of that happen now at open houses. People start talking about price, terms, and motivation. You need to know when to introduce this form. So please just get in a good habit of signing it yourself and tucking it to the side if they refuse to sign. This also conveys seriousness to the party on the other side. If they see a signature is required and they didn't do it, let them know. At some point to move forward in real estate and make a purchase, you will be required to sign this. I'm going to sign it for now as an acknowledgement that you refuse to sign. But going forward, it is something that you will be expected to sign if you're going to purchase a home. This is an opportunity for you to address questions and concerns as well. Some of those concerns coming up they might be about your experience. They might be about how you're going to add additional support services to them. It might be more about compensation at this point. So we want to get really good about having those conversations related to compensation. Guess what training next week is on? Discussing compensation with buyers. So I am looking forward to seeing all of the same faces back here next week. And then all of you who are online, I would love to see you in person if you can make it. But that's exactly what we're going to talk about, right? Working through some of the objections or conversations related to commissions and how they work with buyers. When you're conducting the consultation, you want to kind of close with discussing next steps, right? So you are reiterating your commitment to helping them find the right house. Express gratitude and excitement for the opportunity to work with them. You want to be able to either have that buyer representation agreement with you so it can be signed in person, or if you're using Click Contracts, Sam, how long does it take to do a buyer rep agreement in Click Contracts? 4 seconds, according to Sam. I think that's a record. I put it at a minute. He says 4 seconds, guys. So somewhere in between. Point being, super fast if you're using Click Contracts. And then another factor in this I want you to know from broker perspective is that you cannot send out something electronically without explaining first what it is that they are signing. So if you have been in the habit of, oh, I'm just going to tuck my buyer docs right in there with a purchase agreement, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Okay. LMK. Okay, so we're not going to do it Sam's way, but we appreciate Sam's contribution to the conversation. Yes. But guess what? If you are doing a buyer consultation up front and you're using the guide and you're presenting the paperwork to them, you fulfilled your obligation to explain what it is that they're going to sign. And now you can send it off in 4 seconds through Click Contracts and have it signed right away. You've just got yourself a new client. Your goal is to deliver and find them a house, right? Set a follow-up call for feedback on either property matches or what your next step is. So if you're conducting a buyer consultation and you're immediately going to showings, once those showings are complete, like what is your next step in the process? We've now formed a partnership, right? I just promised to take care of you. We're in this agreement. It's a bilateral agreement. Buyers are going to do this. You're going to do this in return. Got to deliver on that. The best way to provide service is then setting that expectation and carrying forward with it, right? Do what it is that you're committing to do. Okay, that is the end of the outline. What I would love is to open up some conversation for the next 5 minutes. Is that okay, 5 minutes? We're going to open up conversation for 5 minutes on any questions that you might have, or better yet, if you were someone who, where are my people who raised their hands? Actually, Colin, can I come up here real quick? I want to turn you into an example. Okay. This is Mr. Burkholder, and I'm not going to put you too much on the spot. We've already talked about this. Okay. Colin does one of the coolest things that I've actually never even considered this. I would love for you to share with the team what it is that you do with video for explaining documents or commissions.
Yeah, I mean, if I ever, so my consultations have kind of like changed throughout the years. They used to be like super formal, person. Questions I would ask, I would go through a your guide, and then I would explain the paperwork on one person. And that's kind of morphed into still doing like either a video consultation or in person, but like it's a little bit more casual, gets right to the point. And then honestly, I ended up just recording a like video explaining both the paperwork and listing paperwork, and I just send that off to them right before I send them the paperwork to sign. I actually did that a couple of weeks ago. I sent the paperwork and I forgot to send the video. And client reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, there's some questions about this paperwork. If we could just like schedule a call this week." I was like, "Oh, sorry, I forgot to send the video. I'll shoot that over to you. Let me know like if that answers all your questions." And they messaged me back. They're like, "Yep, like that all makes sense." So like it just really feels like it's streamlining the process, and honestly mitigates a lot of liability for myself, because if anyone's ever even like the $6.95 EXT commission, like if people get upset about that, it's like, well, I sent you this video, but I told you to like, want to ask me any questions, you signed the paperwork, you probably should have read that, same point. It's like that extra barrier. And it gives them time to think of questions instead of you like shoving paperwork in their face, being like, "Do you have any questions? Great, like let's go." I just feel like it's a better experience for the consumer that way.
I think we should get into generic video.
AI voiceover of you speaking in his voice.
How long is the video?
Or like 7 minutes or something. It's a bit short. Like I go through everything. I go through agency. I quickly go over commission, how that's paid out, and explain right in the video. It says right here, line by line, you're paying my commission unless it's being offered by the seller. If that isn't being offered, you're going to have to pay the difference between that. So I go through everything. I go through the EXP or the coverage and health disclosures. So
love it.
It's like a 7-minute video.
Are you posting this?
I recorded it, so it has like my face on it.
You can then see if they watch it.
Yep, exactly.
So I want to add to this. We've been just in the last few days talking a little bit about I don't know Moxie's capabilities of this, but I know High Note allows you to upload video links where you could create a presentation in there that has all of your buyer docs and then a video like this explaining everything. And then you just have the signing sent over to them. It creates a link for the consumer, and you now have the analytics to prove that they opened it, right? Or that they saw what it was that you were sending to them. So we want to leverage the power of technology as well. And there's going to be some neat ways, I think, that we could kind of take this to the next level. And anytime that you're putting your face on something, you are again making it harder and harder to be rejected by the person on the other side, right?
Very first thing I looked at it, this is something that's changed over a period of years. If you have not been an agent for a period of years, this is not something you sit and work upon. It's common. But I think that's what he did. Someone was able to do that because he had that conversation in person so many times it was almost automatic. But you have to go through that a few times. I want to say more than a few times, but you said that you're able to have that conversation with a person before you have a chance to move that on to technology.
Before you do a 7-minute video.
Well, I guess, and my question with these team leads that come in, I was thinking, like, how does video play into that? Like, is it something that we really do have to meet in person every single time before every showing? Or is there a way to do, like, still do this virtually? So, I don't know how that works, but, like, that was my first thought of, like, man, I'm going to get so many Zillow leads. They're already on Zillow because they want convenience. They just want to see the home. And then be like, no, I'm not going to meet with you. Like, I'll just find another agent to be who's just going to show me the home.
Yep.
So to find ways to like streamline this process while still staying in compliance, like,
You do a buyer contact for the phone then and say, you know, sort of requirements. Now that we've had this conversation, I do have, you know, a buyer rep or agency that I would like to send over to look over and sign before we meet it.
Yep. So remember that any person that you connect with, the goal is not to just show them the home. The goal is to create a partnership, right? What are we doing it for? We want them to turn into clients. We want to close the sale. So we're walking a little bit of a fine line of how do we deliver the consumer experience that they're looking for of convenience, while at the same time meeting our requirements with National Association of Realtors and what already exists in the state of Minnesota. That's why so often I use that language and I put it back on the state. I will tell people in my follow-up call, my goal is to partner with you. Like I want to be the agent that you are working with to find a home. Let's sit down and talk about your goals and how we can make this a great experience for you. If you're making it all about them and how you want to deliver to them what it is that they're looking for, few and far between are going to deny the consultation. Whether or not they decide to, hey, I don't want to sign the buyer rep agreement right now, fine. But for a one-time showing agreement, we can still go see this property. This is evolving and we will continue to evolve with it, but that's where it stands for now. So.
For what it's worth, I just, while we were in this session, I texted our broker to ask us, okay, I need to hear it from you. When you expect a one-time showing form, who's this coming from and is it not? Responses that EXP and MLS are waiting to see, well, EXP is waiting to see what the forms committee does.
Yeah.
So they'll make a decision about July or so, and then if they don't provide a form like that, then the EXP will have to do it. So that's how we're not going to have that in place for quite a while. And I don't think that means that we should just proceed as normal up to that point. Right. So let's take these 100 days. You say you the rest of the behaviors and the
correct
conversations, and then we'll just put that form in.
Yeah. I have a contact at the forms committee as well, so I'm trying to keep us more informed than anyone else. If that form comes out, we're going to know about it first. I bug Robert every single week. What's the update? When's the next meeting? So we're just doing our best to stay on top of it because we want everyone prepared for when the changes roll out. But to Liz's point, now is our opportunity over the next couple months to really perfect this process. Become an expert at conducting a buyer consultation and providing value that is different than any other agent out there. Okay, we're going to close it up. Thanks so much for attending. Reach out to your sales coordinators and myself with any questions, and I'll get all of the materials sent out an email to everyone today. And then we're going to have a team meeting in just a couple minutes, okay? Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.